The Chancellor will need to raise taxes by PS 25 BN if she wants to keep spending in line with the key indicator of the nation's economic health, according to the Institute for Fiscal Studies IFS. In its annual green budget analysis, the IFS warned that the government would have to dramatically increase the PS 9 BN of tax rises outlined in its manifesto to meet the pressures on public services. The Chancellor is likely to stick to her fiscal rule, which requires day-to-day spending to be met by tax revenues. This means she cannot increase borrowing to fill the gap. Pachel Reeves will present her first budget in the Commons on 30th October. Paul Johnson, director of the IFS, said this budget could be the most consequential since at least 2010. The new Labour government has already pledged in its manifesto to increase government budgets by PS 5 BN and is spending PS 9 BN to settle public sector pay disputes. If Labour makes no further changes to the spending envelope, which was outlined by the previous government in 2021, it would register a surplus of PS 17 BN. However, those spending plans are considered wildly unrealistic and would involve real-term cuts to unprotected budgets. There is very little appetite for further cuts to public spending, so the Chancellor could protect those budgets from inflation. That would leave her with a surplus of PS 1 BN. However, if she opted to protect spending as a share of national income which better reflects population increase, she would record a deficit of PS 16 BN. National income is the total value of goods produced and services provided by a country in 1 year equal to gross domestic product plus the net income from foreign investments. That PS 16 BN combined with the PS 9 BN of tax rises already promised would see taxes increase by PS 25 BN, further adding to a tax burden which is at a generational high. It would be bigger than the net tax rises recorded in July 1997 and October 2010, which were both around PS 13 PS 14 BN. The government has also penned itself in by promising not to raise income tax and corporation tax or to increase national insurance or VAT. The IFS said that, even if Labour's planned PS 9 BN tax rise is implemented, trying to balance the current budget while avoiding cuts to public service spending would put the budget on a knife edge and highly sensitive to Office for Budget Responsibility judgments. It said the Chancellor has inherited an unenviable public finance situation as taxes are already at an historic high and debt is rising, while public services such as prisons, police and local councils are under strain. The Chancellor and Sir Keir Starmer have said the Labour government inherited a PS 22 BN black hole in the public finances from its predecessors. Mr. Johnson said the first budget of this new administration could be the most consequential since at least 2010. Taxes are at an all-time high and she is tightly constrained by her pledges not to raise the main rates of income tax or corporation tax, or to increase national insurance or VAT at all. The temptation then is to borrow more, perhaps changing the definition of debt targeted by the fiscal rules. But given her pledge to balance the current budget, that would not free up additional resource for day-to-day spending.
That Pachel Reeves is going to be walking, but it seems that, there's a pretty authoritative report in The Guardian on the front page this morning saying she told the Cabinet on Tuesday she is going to do this in some form. My colleague Dan Bloom, writing Playbook, says that's on the money, and therefore the question now is how much of this investment are we going to see, and exactly what tweaks to these rather obscure but very important debt rules will she go through with to find that cash?
Government officials, advisors have been doing a very good job since early September of signalling that this is coming. They were pretty blunt that this was on the cards right back to early September when I was talking to them. So it's no surprise that we've got here. But it is a surprise that it's happening because there are two big challenges here if Pachel Reeves changes the way that debt is defined, which allows her to, within the fiscal rules she promised in the manifesto, borrow more. The first, Jack, and this is an underappreciated, but I think it's a massive point. Pachel Reeves, last November, promised she wouldn't do exactly this. She promised she wouldn't do exactly this. Last November, she told reporters, we are not going to fiddle the figures or make something to get different results when asked whether or not she would consider using the easier debt target. We will use the same models the government uses, right? black and white, absolutely clear. A chancellor, a shadow chancellor, giving her word, now a year on, looking like she's going to break that.